Thank you for joining us today. It, in some ways, is very, very appropriate that the BCTV studio, which was formerly the study hall at the original Brattleboro High School, the building that's now the Town Municipal Center on the third floor, is now the home of an interview with staff members from Vermont Adult Learning. To my immediate left is Mary Ide, the regional manager. To her left is Rich Aronson, who is the English as a second language instructor. To my right is Cindy Holden. She is the Act 176 high school completion manager. And to her right is John Everest, who is an education advisor with Vermont Adult Learning. Thank you all, and certainly thank you for what you do in the community, because if there's one thing that we keep hearing is that the workforce needs an educated group of people working at companies, and the bar continually gets set higher and higher. And since we all come from different places, even after school, that help is just so crucial. How many people do you serve?
We serve approximately 400 people a year, at least that's the last fiscal year. We provided almost 8,000 hours of instruction. So the range is big, 400 people. They're coming from all works of life. They may be somebody who's dropped out of high school, or they might be somebody who wants to go to CCV. They might be somebody who's in the workforce, just as you said, and needs to brush up on some math skills, or they're in the workforce and they want to look for a better job, and so they come to us to brush up on other skills. We also have something called the Work Keys Assessment System, and this is fairly new. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Tim. These are national assessments that help an individual and an employer understand what their capabilities are. The range of capabilities can be everything from reading and applied math into much more sophisticated areas like thermodynamics, fluid dynamics. There are also some soft skills that are measured with work keys. So here, these are just a few options relative to the workplace that people can come in, work with us, and improve their chances for a better career.
Fluid dynamics, I'm not sure I've heard of that term.
No, we don't do a lot in fluid dynamics, but that option is there should a local employer have a lot to do with fluid dynamics, wanted to measure the capabilities either their current employers or prospective employees. They could come to us and we will provide the access to the Work Keys assessments.
One of the big questions in today's society, out in the workforce, is the ability of workers to both speak, write, and to process information. And that really seems like it's right up your alley, being able to use a computer, teaching people how to express themselves in a more effective manner.
Mm-hmm. Our basic assessment, basic skills program is focused right on that. Learning to read at a better level, writing with correct English, grammar. And then we also have the English as a second language program for people who are new to the community, and this is Rich's area. We have a lot of immigrants in Brattleboro, in Windham County. We do serve all of Windham County. And so, say people come here, need to learn to speak, read, or write English, and this is Rich's area.
I'm curious how big that is, and what kind of spectrum of people from other countries are you working with, Rich?
It's about 15 students at the moment at all different levels, and almost every country could be represented from every continent, and they're all at home in the same classroom learning the same things. We really focus on talking, putting things to use, not just lectures, but really getting people talking and practicing. We mix the grammar, but we also mix the conversation, the listening, all aspects of learning. And the diversity is very, very large.
But do you know all these languages? And how do you converse with people who are working to find a way to be at least semi-fluent or conversational, or be able to have the kind of skills that everybody else does, be able to go to the bank, go to the post office, that sort of thing?
It is very interesting. This is clearly different than your English language class in a public school because of the diversity of languages and cultures. So basically, we're talking English the whole time. And so part of it's through lecture, but a lot of it's through immersion and just trying and talking. So whether you're from an Asian country or European country, wherever you're from, you speak English to your neighbor who might be from a different country. And we are also, while we do the lessons, making it as relevant as practical as possible. So we don't just esoterically talk about grammar or pick a subject that's not relevant. We are using material that's very relevant to get the immigrants integrated into the community. You know, exercises about going to the post office, exercises about the American culture, really trying to do two things at once. Get them to learn the language, but also get them to know the culture.
People may scoff at this, but they have to consider that they would be in a similar position if they were all of a sudden put down in the middle of Beijing, Paris, or Buenos Aires, Argentina, for instance, and be asked to be a productive member of those different societies. It is a tough job, but you do have success?
We feel we do, and we measure that success too through testing to make sure that we get level gains. That's the most important thing, to get the results so that they could be contributing in the way that they want to into society.
So are there entrees for some of these new residents to become citizens? Do you help them get toward that position?
We have that as well. We have civics lessons, and we have kits, and we're in communication with the officials that provide that material. So that's definitely a key part of what we do.
Naturalization is one of our classes that we can offer. I'd also say the community has been incredibly helpful with us. We have the ELL students go to the library, and the library has materials that are helpful for them. Many of them are very surprised. All of a sudden they can just go into this library and get free access to books. We do go to the banks. We go to this building to show them where the police are, where the town offices are. It opens a whole world to many people.
Many people who've been here all their lives don't know, even though they should, some of the things that these men and women are learning in the English as a second language program. So it's very, very valuable.
Yeah, I really think it is. I mean, I think it not only empowers the individual to be satisfied with their life and to be able to get meaningful work, but it also stitches the community together because it increases the communication and the cultural understanding.
How do we increase the cultural understanding back the other way for people in the community to understand that we have people who might be from a different background and have something of value to the community as a whole and to us as people?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I really think it's both ways. I mean, we're trying to do our job to make sure that they could adequately communicate so they get the right response and the right understanding. And programs like this and other similar ways of communicating hopefully will raise the awareness that our immigrant community, our international community are really an integral part of what makes Brattleboro diverse and makes it more interesting.
That's one of the things we keep hearing from local and statewide development people, is that we as a community need to be more welcoming to people who have a lot to offer our workforce but may not look like we do. So we need to do as much as we can on both ends to work on cooperation and understanding.
Well, I can definitely say this. I never met a more motivated group of people. They come to class and they really want to learn. They want to take advantage of all the resources, not just class time, but we are putting in a computer learning program so outside of class they could learn. A lot of them want to do homework. They really want to integrate and learn the language and the culture.
Speaking of motivation, I want to shift gears to Cindy, because there are a lot of young people who, for a variety of reasons, and I won't mention all of them here, get involved in completing their high school requirements through adult learning. How are those numbers looking? Have they increased or are they steady? And do these young people have anything in common?
Well, in Vermont, there are a number of ways to finish your high school credential. And Vermont Adult Learning, Vermont's a great place to be if you want to seek an alternative path to high school completion. Vermont is one of the few states left in the United States where you can sit for the GED at age 16. So that's one way. Another way is the high school completion program, Act 176, which is the program that I work in. Those are custom-built graduation contracts. They're challenging, they're very creative, and they're definitely an adult education culture. Tremendously exciting what the opportunities are within Act 176. There is also an adult diploma program. Generally, that is for people 21 and older, but appropriate candidates can be wavered in to the adult diploma program. So there are three, right off the top, three distinct pathways where people can finish that high school credential. If, for whatever reason, being in a traditional high school setting is not a fit for them.
Some of those people may have had a bad experience. How do you get them beyond it and realize that they do have motivation, they just have some fears to work through?
I find the cure for disappointment is excitement about the future. So a big part of my job is focusing on a young person's goals for life beyond the high school diploma, because that world of work and the world of just life as an adult is such an exciting prospect. So why waste time looking back when we can look ahead and generate some excitement about the possibilities?
One of the things I've found is that while you may think you're out of school, in many ways, either on the job, in life, in your family, or in society, you really never stop learning. How tough is it to get that impression across to people who might be discouraged and have given up?
I think one of the best ways for all of us to help with that is to model. When we're involved in our own growth and development, as in Vermont Adult Learning, we have a very serious professional development program where we are all engaged in our own learning and growth and development, and we share that information with students. But I think the more someone is in a community where it's valued, to keep learning, keep growing, build up your credentials, make yourself more marketable, join the whole global opportunity, that's contagious. I think that kind of enthusiasm is really contagious.
My sense, if I can
Please
jump
do.
in too, is anyone that just walks in the door, from my perspective, is is significantly motivated from the beginning. I mean, it's incredibly inspiring for me to have someone who's had such a horrible experience. Many of them have had horrible experiences in their previous education. To say, you know what, I'm going to try this one other pathway, and they walk in the door to figure out how to move forward in some other way. And so in some ways, I think we're lucky, because when folks walk in, they're ready to move. They're ready to do something different.
So as an advisor, how do you get them to where they want to be and figure out what kind of programs would be most helpful for that journey?
Yeah, great question. Really, we work initially individually with folks to get a sense of kind of where they think they want to be. Why did they initially call us? What was the motivating factor to get them in the door, to pick up the phone? And then we have folks come in and do an orientation where we have a chance to share the three different programs that Cindy mentioned, as well as other opportunities for folks that are going to CCV or elsewhere and want to build up their math, reading, writing skills. From that point, we get a sense of where their skills are, so we do an assessment with each person. And so they have a sense of, a clear sense of, kind of where their skills are, as do we. Often people will come in and they have a sort of either a overconfidence or an underconfidence about their skills. I had an incredibly inspiring person the other day who came in, had just barely had some ninth grade education. He's his late 20s. Had only had a little bit of ninth grade, and that was his last schooling. So he was very nervous before taking these assessments. And he walked in and took the assessments, and he went over the top. Like he scored outside the range of what these tests cover. So. So anyway, so that's a big starting place is getting people a sense of where their skills are at to be able to then decide, okay, which is the most effective route for me moving forward.
How much, for all of you, is literacy an issue, and is there a common theme that we can address as a community?
Literacy. Part of our program is basic literacy, and I'm talking literally literacy. We've had two men in their 40s come to us recently, very successful in their business, but believe it or not, were not able to read. They worked with us, with a special teacher who knows a phonics system, and those two men, within a year, are reading at a fairly sophisticated level. Literacy in the sense of a larger sense, not just reading, but media literacy, I think is absolutely critical. I think probably everyone would agree, many of our individuals, the adults that come to us, think they're quite literate about the internet. They're really not. They don't understand about evaluating information. They may not know how to use the internet really most satisfactorily. So I think media literacy is as important as the basic fundamental literacy.
I find that fascinating because as someone who has spent his career evaluating information and disseminating it to others, there's a lot of garbage on the internet. And if we're having problems trying to figure out what's usable and what's not, how can someone who isn't doing that for a living figure it out?
Well, it's a good question, and the American schools it's within the last 10 and 15 years that they've begun teaching media literacy, but it is critically important. We may not directly address it, but I do think we help students understand how to read better, how to do a little bit of critical evaluation of content that certainly helps them.
Reason why I say is because I make the joke all the time about Wikipedia celebrating 600 years of American independence, which is just, for me, an example that you really have to judge information with a jaundiced eye. Even those who do it for a living can make mistakes. And if you put enough information out, you make a ton of mistakes. In fact, that was my day today. But you really need to figure out what is truth and what is not. How do you do that?
I'm not sure I can put it in a nutshell, but it's interesting. I think a lot of our individuals see the slant in advertising, but they don't see Wikipedia's slant.
Interesting, because if you compare sources of information, you'll often find that there is an error within. And my own axiom is you go to a public meeting, 3 different reporters cover it, and you'll see 3 different slants on it.
Sure.
None of them were wrong. It's just you're seeing it through 3 different sets of eyes. And, it sounds as though it would be really tough to get the message across that you've got to look at several different things and evaluate what you feel is truthful for yourself.
But I do think we do that in especially the adult diploma program, because they pick a subject, for instance, a health issue, and they have to look at a range of sources. And through that experience, they're going to see exactly 3 different opinions. Okay. Then they've got to sift through and determine what is truth and not.
Gee, it sounds like some of those graduates would have the basics for what a lot of us so-called content providers are doing on a daily basis nowadays. When you're looking at helping someone put together a plan, how much does their own time commitment weigh in? And how much or how little time can someone put to improving themselves and still be productive?
I can start that, and I'm sure others can.
I'd love
can
all of you
add.
to chime in on this, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, there's no one answer to that question. I think one of the challenges that we all have, and our basic skills teachers in particular, this comes up quite a bit, is there can be an assumption by folks coming in and taking some initial classes that that's it. So they've taken the class, and then somehow, and they come to a 3-hour class one week and then come back the next week, and that's gonna be enough to build their skills. And so we have to work really diligently with folks to help them realize that a fair amount of work does need to take place at home in between classes, and also to help them manage that, because one of the common areas, for many folks is in their experiences in past educational environments is their organization skills and time management. So helping them figure out how to figure out the pieces of time so that they can get the work done. But I don't know if you'd want to talk more.
Yeah. Point out that we use the word, we tailor our programs to meet the individual's needs. So many people who come to us have a couple of children at home or have a full-time job. Our job is to make a program that takes into account those things. So it may take a longer time to complete the work with us, but we tailor it, we make it personal for so that they can succeed.
With the English second language, that's exactly what we did. We've changed the hours to make it available for the students. So we didn't just say these are the hours. We basically asked them what's their availability based on their needs, and we added a class in the evening as a result. And we also do encourage them to try to do as much as they can at home, to start integrating English into their daily routine. So it's not just the class hours, but we try to build the hours outside of class and with the computer program as well in our computer lab.
Maybe it's important to know, we're not a school in the traditional sense. We're there for the adult who has time issues, and so we don't have bells, we don't have clocks in the same way that you're used to.
You must all be the most patient people around.
Well, we've been here for 40 years. We've been in Windham County for 40 years, and we have been patient, and I think we'll continue to be patient.
Wow, and let me get this straight. No one who walks through the door pays any kind of fee.
Yes, except for 2 national assessments. The GED does cost, so that is a fee. There are 5 tests, and that comes up to $75, right?
$15 a test, yeah.
$15 a test. The Work Keys assessment also costs. They're also $15.45. Everything else is free. All the classes are free, all the ed advising, orientation using our computer lab, free.
Wow. And what advice do you have on time management? Because that one, I'm 55 years old, and that's still a killer to me.
Well, me too. And in some ways, I think that's a great starting point. Is to not, start the learning about it from the perspective of I've got this all figured out. It's for most all of us, we're still trying to figure out how to make that happen. A ton of things are going on in all of our lives, and so how do we juggle that? And then just when we think we've figured it out, 3 more things come into our lives, and we have to figure it out. So.
Wow, this is great that this is in the community, and that we in Brattleboro and in Windham County value our neighbors, value our community members, and make sure that we can be as strong as the strongest and as the weakest of our community. We try to make the weakest stronger. Mm-hmm. How can people get in touch with Vermont Adult Learning? And what are your hours? Oh, yeah, that's right. You don't have hours.
Yeah, right. Well. There are a couple of ways. First of all, our number is 257-9449. Our hours are 8:30 to 5 every weekday, except Tuesdays when we're open until 7 p.m. We have a Facebook page. We have a website, Facebook, you would go to Facebook plus Vermont Adult Learning Wyndham. Just put in Vermont Adult Learning for the website and then click on Wyndham. We are part of a statewide organization. There are 6 other major Vermont Adult Learning Centers in Vermont, at the Windham County being the one here. We're at 90 Burge Street, and that's right off Canal Street. And we are the first big 3-story SD slate-covered building, so we're pretty recognizable.
That you are. And in case we were to bump into any those lawmakers, they occasionally come out on the weekend when they're not in session. How important is this program to the community, and what should we tell them?
This is very important to the community. I think our Wyndham legislation is very supportive, very interested. We keep them in touch as best we can. We just sent them a newsletter, what we're doing. We send a newsletter 4 times a year to anybody in the community who would like one. And we try to keep in touch with our legislators.
And I would love to say, if you're speaking with legislators, please thank them for Act 176. It's a tremendous, one-of-a-kind program. There's nothing else like it in the United States. Huge opportunity for young people in Windham County. So thank them, because it's the brainchild of the Vermont legislature.
Glad to do that. Again, our thanks to Mary Ide, Rich Aronson, Cindy Holden, and John Everest from Vermont Adult Learning. If you'd like to know more, go online. Here's a website you can trust, vtadultlearning.org. This is Tim Johnson. The world can be your oyster. It's up to us to make it happen. Thank you a lot.